I have been thinking a lot about luck this week. And if you're listening to this episode as it comes out, St. Patrick's Day is right around the corner. So I don't know about you guys, but I have been seeing a lot of four-leaf clovers, gold coins, just like these lucky symbols everywhere I go. And all of those classic motifs that you probably associate with St. Patrick's Day, but also luck itself. And I'm a quarter Irish, by the way, so I feel like I do know a thing or two about luck. But I don't think that luck is just about sitting back and hoping that an opportunity will fall into your lap. I think that there are things that you can do to increase your odds of lucky things happening to you every day. So if you're hoping to find yourself in more lucky situations this year, then this episode is for you. Today, we are going to talk about making your own luck. We're going to talk a little bit about luck versus privilege. We're also going to talk about the lucky girl syndrome trend from a few years back and what I think we kind of got wrong with that. And I'll walk you through some practical ways you can become the luckiest person that you know, not just by hoping harder, but by living differently. Before we get into all things luck, let's do a little create and consume. If you're new to the podcast, this is a segment that we do every week on the show where I share what I am creating and consuming, and then you guys can reach out on Instagram. You can send an email, you can leave a comment wherever you're listening or watching this episode, and let me know what you are creating and consuming as well. Because if you listen to this podcast, there is a very good chance that you are doing both every single day. So the thing that I wanted to spotlight that I was creating this past week was a big home updates vlog for YouTube. So I showed the people what you guys have already seen a lot if you watch the podcast on YouTube, which is the exact chair and setup that I have right now. I truly feel like this area came together so nicely. I also am just like inadvertently matching the chair. I feel like I just keep wearing this like dark chocolatey brown color. I fear that I cannot stop even though spring is quickly approaching. But I guess I'm just leaning into the dark autumn color mentality. And I also took the vlog around the rest of the apartment. I showed off the new couch in the living room. That made such a difference, honestly. I feel like it's already kind of changed my life in many ways. And I can link the home updates vlog in the show notes if you want to go watch it on YouTube and check it out. And then also in that vlog, we went shopping at Home Goods. We found the little table that you see to my left here if you're watching. And we also found some other little accents like throw pillows and a storage ottoman. And I also adventured to the Anthropology outlet in a town called Shelton, Connecticut. So for context, that's like an hour and a half from here. I was already in Connecticut anyway, so I decided to stop by on my way home. And the experience was interesting. I personally did not come away with anything, and I would say that that outlet is probably better. Like, you'll have a better chance of finding something that you want if you're looking for clothes versus home, because I feel like clothes made up the majority of this essentially like large warehouse that I went to. But I'm still happy that I decided to go just to like check it out for myself and see what the vibes were there. And they also do get new stuff every week. So maybe some weeks will be better weeks than others for looking for what I was looking for, which was again more finishing touches. I'm talking like art and like, I don't know, things to hold the kitchen utensils and just other little knickknacks and decor items versus a large dining table that seats 12, which would not make sense in an apartment of our size. And then as far as what I've been consuming this past week, I feel like I'm the last person on the planet to arrive to this party, but I finished Heated Rivalry. If you're listening to this, you're probably like, that show has been out for months and months. Like, but it seems as though the internet has not moved on, luckily for me, because when I went to Threads to look for just all the memes and see what people were still talking about, it delivered. It was kind of reminding me of when The Summer I Turned Pretty was airing, specifically season 3, just logging onto Threads and being like, I need to discuss this with everyone I know. And I really enjoyed this show. I loved how it was done. I loved the progression of like, these two don't say two words to each other. How are they going to fall in love? To like, oh my God, I am sobbing. I cannot believe that it took me so long to get to that point, or that it took them so long to get to that point. But I really loved it. And I also loved the like mid-season break where we went and focused on a totally different storyline. I actually was really just like moved in a totally different way by Scott and Kip's storyline just as much as I was invested in Shane and Ilya's storyline. So congratulations to the whole like cast and crew of this show. I mean, there is clearly so much love for it. I believe it has already been greenlit for a second season, which I believe follows the second book in the series. So this is also an exciting time, I would say, for book adaptations, maybe paving the road for more to come. Obviously, we had a big one earlier this year with Emily Henry's People We Meet on Vacation being adapted by Netflix, which I still have not watched or read. If you have, though, let me know if I need to get on that. And yeah, I've been on a little bit of a dry spell the last week with reading, but hopefully I'll have a book update for you guys in the next episode or two. So that's what I am creating and consuming. Don't forget to reach out and let me know what you guys are creating and consuming as well. And with that being said, let's get into today's conversation all about luck. And this has just been on my mind a lot lately. I feel like for a lot of different reasons, a lot of various areas of my life. And I want to start out by saying that I right now feel truly like one of the luckiest people in the world. Like, I think that the other reason I wanted to do this episode is just because I feel like an immense amount of gratitude. I also have two kind of big life milestone anniversaries coming up, one of which is that this month marks 5 years since we've lived in Hoboken. And I just am so in love with this city and this neighborhood. I can't believe that we are Hoboken homeowners. Like, that's something obviously huge that happened last year. I have a whole episode where I talked about like our decision to buy an apartment here and all of the things that went into that, which I can link in the show notes if you want to learn more. And also, next month is going to be my 5 year self employment anniversary. And that just doesn't sound right. I feel like I just sat down and filmed my YouTube video about my decision to leave jump rope and like what all of that was going to look like. And we had actually just moved to Hoboken, 2 weeks before that actually happened. And I'm just thinking back on the fact that it's been 5 years since both of those things. And I'm thinking a lot about how far I feel like I've come and the fact that I'm just so grateful for my life and for the people in it and for all of you guys who choose to follow along in whatever capacity you choose to follow along with, whether you just listen to the podcast, whether you come and hang out on YouTube, whether you follow me on Instagram. Like, I really have just been feeling so grateful. And I keep thinking to myself, like, God, I just feel so lucky. And I do think that luck is certainly part of it. But there's also a lot of things that I have done that I feel like have increased the odds of these lucky things happening to me. So I wanted to start out and just define what is luck. And I did do a fair amount of research for this episode. I have a lot of my own thoughts and opinions about luck, but I also just wanted to see what else was out there, what other people think about luck, and what some of the most common topics were when we think about luck as a, collective we. And my favorite definition that I found that I feel like does sum up how I feel personally about luck is that luck is what happens when opportunity meets someone who's ready to receive those opportunities. And I do think that a lot of being lucky or feeling the presence of luck in your life is, in many ways, your mindset and just having an open mind and being someone who's receptive to having good things happen to them, to feeling lucky in many ways, and to also defining luck in your own terms. Because, like I said in the intro of this episode, there are a lot of lucky symbols out there, right? Like finding a 4-leaf clover, like, oh, there's a ladybug, that's good luck. There's a horseshoe, that's a lucky charm. There are a couple of lucky charms, though, that I'm just like, we should have left this alone. Like rabbit's feet, what? Whose idea was that? That is not lucky to me. That's just no. All of that to say, I think that we associate luck a lot with these kind of external signs and little motifs or symbols that we as a society like associate with luck in our heads. But I actually think that more of our internal mindset and how we look at opportunities, how we look at our life, how we look at our jobs, the people who surround us, where we live, all of these different things actually have a lot more influence on whether or not you end up being more of a lucky person where, essentially things always work out, to even grab a little piece of the lucky girl syndrome, which we're going to talk about more. And I wanted to quickly touch on what I think the difference is between luck and privilege, because as much as I feel like I am a lucky person, I also fully acknowledge that I'm a privileged person. I mean, I was born in northern New Jersey. I am the only child in my family. My parents both worked for years before they had me. And then from the day I was born, helped set me up for success by putting me through school, teaching me about finance and financial literacy, encouraging me to sign up for extracurricular activities where I would meet people, to apply for jobs or internships where I would have good connections. And those are all things that I'm extremely grateful for and that I am extremely privileged to have had as like the basis for who I am and how I approach the world. But these are things that were not really within my control, right? Like I didn't choose my parents, although if I could, I would choose them every single time. I didn't choose my skin color. I didn't choose to be born in New Jersey. Like this is all just the circumstances and the product of decisions that other people made that kind of give me the starting point that I have in life, right? So I just wanted to acknowledge my privilege and kind of check it and then put it aside because, again, for purposes of this episode, there is privilege, right? And there are the things that you don't control, like where you're born, who your parents are, the color of your skin, all of those things. I think lucky people make their own luck by focusing on what they can control and by being open to a whole host of possibilities that go along with that. I think that one of the big misconceptions about luck is, again, that things just happen to you, when really I believe that luck has a lot to do with agency and the control that you choose to take in your life and the areas of your life that you do feel like you have control over, that you do feel like you have a say in, and that you can make productive choices to put yourself in the best possible spot to have good things keep happening to you. Now, let's go back for a second to 2024, because if you were on the internet at that time, which I'm assuming pretty much everyone listening was, you probably came across a trend that was started on TikTok called Lucky Girl Syndrome. And it's been a couple years now, so I can't even really say that I remember the true origin of the trend. I do remember there being an audio going around that was something to the effect of, like, I have Lucky Girl Syndrome. I'm so lucky. Everything always works out for me. Kind of like an affirmation type voiceover that was repeated throughout a lot of different videos, and that kind of became the basis for a whole other bunch of offshoots of that trend, like people doing sit down videos talking about lucky girl syndrome and how to get lucky girl syndrome, or what would we even phrase that as, get diagnosed with lucky girl syndrome. And then also people who were taking a more like aesthetic approach to things, where maybe it would be just like a montage of clips of your life and putting the text lucky girl syndrome over it. And what I do think Lucky Girl Syndrome did was raise our awareness as a society again about the idea of luck and the idea of having good things happen to you. I feel like Lucky Girl Syndrome really did create this wave of optimism. But I think the thing that we got a little wrong about Lucky Girl Syndrome was that it also created a wave of delusion, and it really continued to perpetrate the idea that luck is just something that happens to you. I feel like some people saw the lucky girl trend going around on social media and maybe like reposted one video and then sat back and said, okay, great, like luck will come and find me now. Or maybe they found inspiration for like one lucky ritual or mantra or affirmation they could say, but then they never really thought about it again. And I think that approaching it that way doesn't help luck continue to show up in your life in a sustainable way where you can feel like you can almost rely on it. I just think that those approaches don't really help luck show up in your life in a sustainable way that can continue to reappear time and time again. Okay, so how do you become the luckiest person that you know? Earlier, I mentioned the idea of putting yourself in good situations where lucky things can happen to you. And I do think that visibility in itself is a form of luck. You know, you have to put yourself out there. You have to leave the house. You have to make an effort and make connections, and you can't just sit around and hope that luck finds you. You can even think about luck and just compare it to creators who have blown up on social media over the years, right? Like when a creator has a video go viral, in many ways it can be perceived as luck or overnight success, but I think that there are more often than not creators who have been at it for years, who have been creating for a long time, who have maybe just not found their right audience yet or not found the platform that works best for them, so that when they have a moment that goes viral, you might be looking at that creator and thinking, wow, they're so lucky, like, or wow, that video is going big right now. Like, that's crazy that that just happened to them overnight. When in most cases, those creators have probably been posting for years and staying consistent and putting in the effort. And I personally feel like posting consistently for one video to take off, you are increasing your visibility, you're increasing the times that you put yourself out there, you're increasing the odds of someone finding your content who really, really resonates with it. And so while the video that goes viral may be lucky, air quotes, the effort that went behind it is not. It's intentional, it's consistent, and it's trying to find a love for continuing to show up and share something with the world, even if the world doesn't appreciate it right away, or even if it doesn't reach the right people right away. That's what I mean when I say putting yourself in situations where lucky things can happen to you, because how would you end up in that situation if you film a bunch of content and never post anything? Another way to become the luckiest person that you know is to never stop meeting new people, because in so many ways, we are the products of the people that we surround ourselves with. And when you're continuing to put yourself in situations where you meet new people and really get to know people on a personal level, you would be amazed what connections you can form and how those connections can lead to other opportunities later on. And I realize that can sound a little bit transactional. I really don't mean it in that way. And if anything, I think that networking, meeting people, and being in touch with people, especially when you do not need something from them, where you are actively not asking for anything and you're really just trying to build a relationship, is just one of the best things you can do. Not only, if you are entrepreneurial or you're looking for more opportunities related to work, but also just to be a really thoughtful, kind, and open minded person in general. You never know who may be watching your content or, or listening to your podcast or overhear your story at a party and really resonate with your story and what you're saying and connect with you on that personal level. And those personal connections can lead to opportunities even when you're not really asking for them. And one of the best networking tips that I have ever learned in my life is to continue to check in with people and show up and just like say hi without asking for anything. I feel like the reason that a lot of people find networking to be kind of icky is because it does seem a little transactional, and it does seem like, oh, I'm only here because I want this job or because I want this thing or I want this brand to pay me or like whatever the case is. When sometimes when you're just checking in with people or you're finding a way to stay top of mind, whether that's by reaching out on a one-on-one basis, like sending a check-in email or sending a mass email blast. I personally get a lot of these, even from like family and friends at the end of the year around the holidays. That's kind of just like a check-in, like, hey, here's how everyone's doing and like, how are you? Networking is one of those things that I truly credit with helping me so much in my career. And I can even give you an example from this past Fashion Week, which I may have spoken about in the Fashion Week episode, but I'll just repeat this part briefly because I don't think I was looking at it through the lucky lens at the time. But in that episode, I did a recap of all of the presentations and shows that I was invited to this season for Fashion Week. And there was one brand that I got invited to for the first time this year. And I have probably sent that brand like 7 or 8 unanswered pitch emails over the years of requesting to go to the show and not hearing back. But it just so happens that a PR friend who I have known for maybe 9 or 10 years now, if we go all the way back to the early days when I was an editor at Nylon, she has moved around jobs in that time. I obviously have moved around jobs and I'm now self-employed in that time. And she was on the receiving end of my pitch email. So it did happen to be the case that I was lucky that she worked there. And she was like, oh my God, Austin? Like, yes, of course, like put her on the list. And maybe people saw my Instagram stories or posts from that show and said, oh my God, she's so lucky that she got to go. Yeah, you could say luck was part of it, but building a connection so that 9 years later on, when I asked for something and someone just said, sure, that also was a part of the equation. That also went in behind the scenes. And that is another huge reason why you never know who is going to be able to open a door for you, especially if it does not open right away. And I think that's one of those things that you can't plan for. Like, how was I to know that my friend was going to ultimately get this job for this particular brand? There's nothing that I was able to do to control that. It just kind of happened that way. And when I reached out to the right person at the right time in the right place. And that is where luck came in because it felt like perfect alignment. It felt like it was meant to be. And in that way, I would consider that to be something lucky that came from me networking and making an effort to get to know people and keep those relationships, even as people move jobs, even as years have gone by. Okay, another big thing that I think can help you become the luckiest person that you know is to drop your scarcity mindset. And I am working on this still. Like, I would love to tell you that I have moved completely beyond this, but I still experience scarcity mindset from time to time. And what I mean by that is the idea that there's somehow not enough like success or opportunity or whatever the case is to go around when there actually is. Now, I personally always feel a deep desire to look out for myself, and maybe you can relate to this too. I feel like we do sometimes live in a very selfish world where you can't always rely on people, especially people who you used to rely on, or maybe your relationships changed and stuff. And the one person you know you can always count on is yourself, right? So I obviously can relate to that. And I think that I feel that way from time to time. Like, okay, well, at the end of the day, no matter what, at least I can always depend on myself. And that can be a good thing, but I also think it's a double edged sword and it can be a bad thing because I also think that lucky people are generous. I think that they are generous with their time. I think that they are generous with their money. And to that end, I do not believe that lucky people exist in a vacuum. I saw a TikTok last week, I want to say, from Bran Flakes. If I can find the exact video he made, I will link it down below. But he basically made a quick post where he was just walking and he was talking to the camera about how everyone wants a village, but no one wants to be a villager. And I think that is the perfect like visualizer and example for what I'm talking about here, because of course you want to look out for yourself. Of course you want to put yourself first and prioritize your goals and do all of these things. But for me, even personally too, like I don't want to do all of those things at the expense of building relationships with people, volunteering my time, trying to, help put money towards like supporting local business that I care about, or maybe donating money to causes I care about, or I don't know, in the future, I would love to have some kind of like small business grant or like creator grant that I could help fund like a woman content creator who just needs a little bit of extra money to buy some film equipment and things like that. Like, that's something I would love to do later on in my life that I'm already thinking about now. And the reason that I brought up scarcity mindset is because I think that some people feel as though when they do give away money or do give away time, that there is less for them. And while, if you look at your bank account and you subtract money from it, that may be true like the second that you make a payment. I also believe that lucky people know that things always come back to them. Like that if you're giving time, you're not giving it away, you're putting it towards something that you really care about. And when you spend money, yes, on paper, it might mean for a second that you have less of it, but think about spending money on things that add value to your life or that help other people. And this can manifest itself in a bunch of different ways too. Like, just because I don't currently have time to take a coffee meeting with like every single aspiring content creator or magazine editor who reaches out to me, and I do get a lot of messages from people who are interested in my career path. Even if I am not able to sit down and do one-on-one chats with every single person, I do try to be generous with my information. I've created a lot of free resources. My YouTube channel has a playlist of over 150 videos called Creator Tips, which I can link in the show notes. And I still try to send resources, offer to make introductions, connect people, it's a way where I'm able to kind of protect my time in that sense, just because at this point in my life, my time is not infinite. Like I can't take every single meeting, I can't help every individual person, but I can be creative with my time and make resources that can not only help people, but can also give me that time back to then help in other ways or create new things that inspire people or do whatever else is related to my work and also what I'm passionate about. And in my experience, the luckiest people that I know have moved beyond scarcity mindset. They truly believe that there's enough success to go around and that there is plenty of opportunity for everybody who is interested and willing to work for it. I also think lucky people are willing to fail and can be very self-aware of how they react when they experience failure. And this kind of goes back to the example I used earlier about posting consistently online, like posting 100 videos for one to go viral. And I actually think even the podcast Instagram is a good example of this because that's a newer account, right? Like I've only had that for 2 years. I have 159 followers at the time I'm recording this episode, and I have just over 200 posts. But it took just over 200 posts for one of my reels to go viral. If you guys are not following the podcast Instagram, it's the reel where I was talking about how I think that I Can Do It With a Broken Heart from the Tortured Poets Department, Taylor Swift's 11th album, actually belongs on the Life of a Showgirl. Now that reel is at almost 100,000 views on my account with 159 followers. And, I could have easily said, it's too hard to start a separate podcast Instagram account. Like, I don't need to do that. Like, what if no one watches it? What if I only have X amount of subscribers? What if I only get X amount of views? But I'm also aware that that's just part of like starting something new, is that you are always going to be a beginner at the beginning. And if I post a video that completely flops or an episode that nobody listens to, I don't get that stressed about it. I just try to look at what went wrong, recover quickly, and use that to make better informed decisions about what I can do the next time. If I had stopped posting after the first 5 reels because they all only got 100 views and I thought, this is so embarrassing, like I'm not going to keep doing this, I would not have gotten to the reel with 100,000 views. And I think that data and patterns are important. And one of the best ways that you can increase your luck is to study data, study analytics, get into the back end and say, I've tried this a couple of times. These were the results. Which results were most successful? And what can I do to duplicate those things? And the only way you can do that is if you keep going. You can't stop after one small failure. You can't stop after hearing one small no. Lucky people know that when you put out consistent tries, like when you keep going after something, even if you don't get it the way that you initially thought you'd get it, you will have much better success when you try a bunch of different things and take note of what the results are. I'm thinking of the line from National Treasure, maybe one of the best movies of all time. I'm just going to say that right now. Where Ben is talking to Riley and he says, do you know what Thomas Edison said when he tried 1,000 different ways to make a light bulb? That he didn't fail. He learned 1,000 ways how not to make a light bulb. That guy didn't give up. And now we have more light bulbs than we know what to do with. Earlier, I talked a little bit about visibility, but I think another way to become the luckiest person that you know is to increase your surface area for experiencing luck. So, sorry to all my homebodies, but this does involve leaving the house. Usually. Actually, a lot can be done online now, which is still crazy to think about. Like the fact that I'm even sitting here right now at 11 a.m. on a Tuesday, that this is part of my job is a little mind-blowing. And the fact that you could be sitting, like, listening to this right now, just while you're eating lunch or going on a walk or commuting back from work. I mean, it's kind of crazy, isn't it? That I'm just, like, on the TV in your living room or, like, in your earbuds right now. But what I mean when I say to increase your surface area for experiencing luck, I think it really just means pushing boundaries and not being afraid to do new things, to go new places, to meet new people. Learning new skills is a big one because whether you choose to learn new skills with in person classes or just by talking to a friend who knows how to do something that you've been wanting to learn, or going on YouTube and figuring it out for yourself, having skills that can help you, obviously, but also even help other people makes you so valuable in so many ways. And it could even be something simple like, I was going to say changing a light bulb, but maybe that's too simple of an example. For example, I would be beyond blown away and impressed by someone who knows how to change a tire because I do not know how to change a tire. Or, as I think I've talked about on here, Andrew and I love watching old seasons of The Amazing Race. And sometimes when they travel to different countries, like in the most recent season that we watched, they traveled to France. And one of the contestants on one of the teams spoke French. And someone was like, oh my God, that's so lucky that he speaks French. What? It's not so lucky that he speaks French. It's lucky that he decided to learn French, and whether that was in college or on his own, and then he decided to actually continue to learn it to the point where he basically was fluent and was able to easily communicate with people in France to ask for directions or try to Google things or to tell them not to tell the other teams the information that they had just told them. That's what was really lucky about it. Other ways to increase your surface area for luck: travel more. I feel like traveling, honestly, is one of the greatest like gifts that I've been given in my life, and I do feel very lucky that I have been able to go to so many different places and experience other cultures and try new foods and just like really get to see, even for a couple of days or a week or however long it is, how people live in places of the world that are not the place in the world that I live. Or also starting a new project. That is an amazing way to potentially meet other people, to share something with the world. Like, I even consider the podcast still a passion project of mine. And I do feel like this has given me a lot of luck and opportunities in ways that I wasn't even really expecting. Not this past holiday season, but the year before that, I got an email from a producer on the Tamron Hall show who was looking for a creator to basically share some like holiday beauty hacks and tips and inspiration. I will find the clip that I ended up on the show and I will leave it down below. And I remember the producer saying like, yeah, we were looking for like a podcast host to feature for this segment. And I would have been great for that segment regardless of whether I had the podcast or not, but it was kind of lucky that I started this podcast, had listed podcaster on my LinkedIn and on my website and all of these surface areas that I wanted to display like, okay, I'm a podcaster. And even though at the time I had only had the podcast for 8 months, like the fact that I had that in my title and that was the reason that the producer found me and reached out to me and connected me and wanted me in that segment is kind of wild. So that is one way that starting a new project really did lead to a lucky opportunity for me. I also find that lucky people build a reputation that makes them lucky. And what do I mean by that? I think when it comes to reputation, whether that's your reputation at work, your reputation amongst your friends or your family or whoever it is, I think that lucky people have a deep sense of trust of themselves and are truly the champions of their own work and what they bring to the table. And kind of circling back to networking and community building that I was talking about earlier, I find that when people show up on time, when they underpromise and overdeliver, when they check in, even when there's not an urgent like reason as to why they're checking in, that people really respect that and really appreciate when people make the extra effort or go the extra mile, or again, like check in even when you don't know that there's something on the other side of that check-in email. That's actually low-key how I got my job at Nylon. And even though the timing was lucky, the fact that I got that job really was not. So here's an email that I sent to the woman who hired me as an intern at Nylon. I interned at Nylon the spring semester of my junior year, and I sent her this email the following year in March because I was graduating in May. And the subject line of this email is "Hello and coffee?" question mark. I said, "Hi, hope you're well. I was just reading this article that you wrote for the March issue and loved it. I credit you with my new obsession of this designer." And I said, I was wondering if you'd be free for coffee or lunch sometime in the coming weeks. I'm graduating in May and I'd love to just learn more about your experiences, if there are any insights you've gained along the way. Friday is my most flexible day with classes, but can work around your schedule if there's a time that's convenient for you. Thanks in advance. Hope to see you soon. Oh my God, guys, my email signature. Austin Tassone, creator of Keep Calm and Chiffon, Barnard College, class of 2016. So nostalgic. And when I sent this email, there was no like job listing for a role at Nylon. Like, I didn't know that they were hiring. I didn't know that they were looking. I don't know if they would have reached out to me had I not reached out to them. But I reached out to them, and for the reply that I got, it was like, why don't you swing by the office sometime next week? And can you also send over a copy of your resume? And I showed up at the office, and it was a job interview, which I probably could have deduced or put together. I remember my mom was horrified because she came to pick me up afterwards and I wore like a super casual outfit, which thank God it was fine because it was Nylon, but maybe would have like dressed slightly, just a little bit fancier, like a tad. Yeah, so had I not sent that email, I don't know if I would have worked at Nylon. I don't know if my whole career trajectory as it exists today would have happened the way that it did. And lastly, I think that all lucky people are experts on energy management. And the more that you can better control the things that you spend your energy on and make sure that that energy is being spent in a good, positive, productive way and not a unproductive, spiraling, or negative way, I really think that is one of the big separators because as we talked about all throughout this episode, there's a lot of things in our lives that are kind of out of our control. So when you choose to focus your energy on what you can control, and when you're able to prioritize the things that truly matter, put those at the top of the list and separate yourself from extra chaos or craziness or what other people's reactions are to things, when you really just want to focus on your own reactions and the fact that you are in control of how you choose to react to stuff. I think lucky people are so good about spending energy where it matters and letting go of things that do not. So to put this idea into practice, I think lucky people are selective. I think they set boundaries and actually stick to them, whether that means sitting down to record a podcast every week or making time for a family dinner where everyone has their phones put away, or whatever you could kind of visualize that looking like in your own life, making sure that you prioritize the key pillars of your life, the key things that you believe in, or the most important activities or meetings or events in your life that you want to make sure you're putting good time and energy towards. I think that when you can manage your energy expertly like that, then you are able to focus on what really matters, cut through the noise, and get more accomplished and find yourself in more lucky situations. Okay, for a fun little rapid fire list at the end of this episode, I put together a luck themed watch list in honor of St. Patrick's Day and also just in honor of this episode. Okay, I've got 2 movies. One of them I actually only saw for the first time recently. I don't know if it was on a plane or why I was watching it, but it's called Just My Luck. The year was 2006. And Lindsay Lohan and Chris Pine starred in this rom-com where Lindsay Lohan is like the luckiest woman alive. She definitely has lucky girl syndrome. And Chris Pine is like the unluckiest guy in the world. And they kiss and the luck transfers from Lindsay Lohan to Chris Pine. Such an excellent, silly movie. I absolutely love. And then another classic for anyone who grew up watching Disney Channel is, of course, The Luck of the Irish from 2001. And a popular teenager's lucky gold coin is stolen, and he starts becoming a leprechaun and has to confront a rival leprechaun to get it back because his family is Irish. And the evil leprechaun is played by Timothy Odmanson, who also plays Carlton Lassiter on Psych, which is definitely in my top 10 TV shows of all time. Absolutely love it. It's such a classic. I feel like viewership spikes every March for that movie on Disney Plus if you have that. Okay, and I grabbed a couple of TV episodes as well. I much prefer TV to movies. I could probably do a whole podcast episode on that. I won't right now, but for TV, 30 Rock has an episode called St. Patrick's Day, which is so hysterical. Like 10 out of 10 recommend that one. And that's season 6, episode 12. It's where Liz Lemon is dating Chris, but then like Dennis comes back and he's with Megan, and it's St. Patrick's Day. So like everyone at the parade is named Megan. It's really good. The Office also has a St. Patrick's Day episode. Fun fact, my friend Francesca and I accidentally one day in March went to a bar in Hoboken and it was trivia night and it was Office themed trivia night. And at first I was like, great, this is amazing. But all of the trivia questions were about this one episode of The Office, which I had not watched in recent years. It's season 6, episode 19. And I prefer, like, I have a strong preference for the early seasons of The Office, maybe up through season 5. And obviously, up until Michael Scott is no longer part of the show. So we had not seen that episode and we did not do a good job at trivia. But that's okay because that was kind of just happened after we had already had a quick little dinner, which was fun. Okay, I can't even say this one without laughing because I remember this episode so vividly. It's so bad. I don't mean so bad. It's so off color, as is a lot of episodes in this show. So the show is It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. And the episode is Charlie Catches a Leprechaun. Season 11, episode 8. Oh, sorry. You guys just have to go watch that one. Oh my god, that one's crazy. And the last one is for a show that I've actually never seen, but it kept popping up as I was Googling, luck and St. Patrick's Day episodes. And that is How I Met Your Mother, No Tomorrow, season 3, episode 12. Have no idea what that one's about, but it came highly recommended. And just a few final thoughts as we wrap up this very lucky episode. There is a quote that I came across a couple of years ago that I do really like that goes, "The harder you work, the luckier you get." And I do feel like this is the perfect counter to lucky girl syndrome because it's more about intentionality. It's about being brave. It's about trying. It's about showing up on the days even when you really, really, really don't want to show up. And being intentional and having that be reflected in everything else that you do. And I also have always just loved the quote, "Expect the unexpected." I think that when you leave room for things that you were not planning on to appear in your life, that is definitely something that lucky people do. When you're already planning for the unexpected, how can you be surprised by it? Or how can it ruin your day? Or how can you be taken aback by it? Life is unpredictable, and that's probably the only predictable thing about it. And when in doubt, I do think that starting your day with some positive affirmations can be good, whether you kind of tap into the good parts of the lucky girl syndrome trend and say to yourself, "I'm so lucky and things always work out for me," or you create your own affirmations. I really feel like that helps get you into the right headspace and the right mindset to live a lucky life. All right, you guys, let me know what you thought of today's episode. I had a lot of fun doing this more like conceptual topic today versus some of the more tangible topics that I think I've been doing recently. So if you enjoyed this episode, please let me know. Don't forget to rate and review wherever you are watching or listening, and I'll talk to you all next week.